Hey guys, it's Haylie here. Welcome back to the Lesbian Book Club podcast. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to be talking about mothers in lesbian media and culture. I got this idea because it's Mother's Day coming up this Sunday. And I think that I was really reminded about lesbian motherhood with Tina in the L Word. We have so many wonderful lesbian mothers in this world, and they aren't always as present in our media as every other mother is. And so I want to just take a moment to see them, celebrate them, and tell them Happy Mother's Day. And I think it's also just cool as people who are queer to be able to maybe see that for ourselves, whether or not we want children, but just to see that, family can mean a lot of different things. And I think that's something that is so special to me about family, is just that you get to pick who your family is. And I think that, that's a really important and fundamental concept to a lot of queer people who maybe don't have the same concept of family as a lot of other people, for maybe reasons of they don't have the same acceptance and support that our straight counterparts may have, and from their familial ties. And in order to receive like a strong community and support system, sometimes people have to build their own.
Where are the quiet gays? Where are the quiet gays supposed to go?
I think one of media's most iconic lesbian mother pairs, which is obviously, drumroll, let's see if you guys know who I'm talking about right now. Obviously, Steph Foster and Lena Adams from the Fosters. So these two, we have Lena, she is a school principal, and Steph, who is a police officer. They have their own really unique family going on, right? Okay, so these two are for a while in the show, actually, if I remember correctly. Sorry, it's been a minute, but they actually aren't married for a long time. Like, they're domestic partners. They consider themselves married. However, because it was illegal for so long, they actually never were married. And so if I remember correctly, that was like a really special moment in the TV show. Also, just something to think about when we think about motherhood and lesbianism is that that's kind of a big barrier. If you aren't married, you might not have like the same rights when it comes to your child. And I am not really the person to speak about like the legality of all of that, because I don't necessarily know the ins and outs of that. But there is a lot of incentives with our government to be married people and to have children. But that's not really built for us, obviously. So we have the Fosters, and they have Brandon, their biological child, who was actually Steph's biological child with her ex-husband. And so this is a mixed family. Her ex-husband is also her coworker. He's still present in her life and an active parent for Brandon and also the other children. Then they have multiple children who they have adopted and or are fostering. So they have the twins that they had begun with fostering, and then that turned into adoption. And then they have Callie and her little brother Jude. Love Jude. And they come into the Fosters as foster children. If you've watched the show, Callie and Jude's life has been very fraught with adversity. They receive a lot of love and support from Lena and Steph, and are eventually adopted and brought into the family. And yeah, it's just a really beautiful story. They're iconic for a reason. My next couple that I'm going to talk about. And okay, let me preface this by saying that there's many more lesbian mothers who I have found out about in TV and movies that I simply have not watched the shows, so I don't feel that I can speak on it. However, that doesn't mean that they're any less iconic than these two. I haven't seen it. So, special mention to Henrietta and Karen of 911, because apparently they are very iconic, but I haven't seen it, so I'm so sorry. Callie and Arizona Robbins from Grey's Anatomy. Fun fact, I worked on Grey's Anatomy, season 19, but that's beside the point. So, Callie and Arizona, their relationship was also very messy because this is a drama TV show, but they had a daughter named Sophie. And what ended up happening between them, this was Callie's biological daughter with Mark, and Mark ends up dying in a plane crash, and Callie and Arizona are together. Arizona adopts Sophia. That's the story. But then what happens, and it's also, Sophia is Arizona's child. Like, not biologically, but that's her child. They break up. It's a messy breakup. There's just like a lot of trauma that happened with Arizona from this plane crash. She has horrible PTSD, and Callie's the one who had to cut her leg off, and it's just too much for them to overcome. So they had a full-on custody battle over their daughter, Sophia, and in the end, Arizona ends up moving to New York with Sophia because she gets custody, which I actually, in real life, I'm not sure if that would happen because she wasn't the biological mother, and I don't think that the way that the court system works, not that this is right, but I think that the way that our court system works, they would be more inclined to give custody to the biological mother. But anyway, Arizona makes a more convincing case, and she gets custody and moves with Sophia across the country. So that's their story. But anyway, they both love Sophia very, very much. They both went through the journey of becoming mothers, and obviously had a love very, very first for Sophia. So now I am going to move on to something that I have not watched, but I thought it was so intriguing when I saw this. There is this article, blog, I don't know what to categorize this as, but it's on buttondown.com. They've collected 10 cartoons featuring characters with two moms, and I was reading this and I was like, oh my gosh, what? Apparently Tig Notaro has voiced on a cartoon called Clarence that was on the Cartoon Network for the lesbian mother of the protagonist Jeff's best friend. Sorry, the best friend's name is Jeff. And he has two mothers named EJ and Sue. And I love Tig, so I was just so excited to see her name. So that's cool. These lesbian moms, featuring Tig Notaro on the Cartoon Network. And then we have Clifford the Big Red Dog. Say what? There's lesbians in Clifford? Okay, back up. So there was a reboot in 2019. There was a character named Samantha, and she has two moms, named Dr. and Mrs. Mulberry. Okay. All right. Dr. Mulberry is Birdwell Island's veterinarian. That's cool. Love that. We also have some lesbian mothers in the DC superhero girls. The Green Lantern has two mothers. Super cool. Okay. Green Lantern, two mothers. Doc McStuffins has a doll family that consists of two women and their children, Brendan and Gertie. Cool. One of the women, named Thea, is voiced by comedian Wanda Sykes, who I'm going to talk about her a little bit later, actually, but she also is a lesbian mother in real life. The Magic School Bus. What? The I mean, that's not surprising at all because there's all of these conspiracy theories about if Mrs. Frizzle is a lesbian. I think yes. Maybe she's asexual. But I don't know. She gives me lesbian vibes, let's be honest. So, a grandmother of Keisha Franklin, who is one of the main characters in the Magic School Bus, her grandmother appears on the Parents' Day episode in the original series, okay? But in the revival series on Netflix, we see that she has two mothers. Okay, Keisha. And then in Peppa Pig, pop off Peppa Pig, we have Penny Polar Bear, who's one of Peppa's classmates, and she has two mothers. One mummy is a doctor, and one mummy cooks spaghetti. All right, cool. I'm gonna go to Penny Polar Bear's house. I want to see how Polar Bear cooks spaghetti. That's messy. Spaghetti on white fur. Oh. Okay, and then in Wonder Woman, this is interesting. So there is lesbian motherhood in Wonder Woman, and this explanation is super confusing to me because I don't know who any of these people are. I'm so sorry, I've not seen Wonder Woman. But if you've seen Wonder Woman, then you would know what I'm talking about, and maybe you're having a special remembrance right now about it, okay? Alright, so thanks to Button Down for teaching me about all these cartoons with lesbian moms that I didn't know about. That was super cool. And now I want to talk about some lesbian mothers in the world that we all know and love. The first people I want to talk about, because I just absolutely adore them and I will always take a chance to gush about them, are, of course, Glennon Doyle and Abby Wambach. They not only are just awesome, very cool, very smart people, but they also have awesome, very cool, very smart children. So there's 3 kids. 2 of them are adults now, and one of them is still a teenager living with Glennon and Abby. These were children from Glennon and her ex-husband Craig. And when Abby and Glennon met each other and got married, Abby also adopted these children. So it's not like Craig is out of the picture. This is actually a perfect example of you get to choose what family looks like, because this is not that one parent went away and now you have like a step parent. This is the perfect example of you have an extra bonus parent now, and there's this really cool involvement between all 3 of them. This honestly just really beautiful. Like it seems like, obviously I'm not there, I don't know them personally, but from just what they put out to the public in an outsider's view, this relationship that the 3 adults have is built on respect and love and is just a really good environment for the kids, and has been built like in mind to be great parents. Abby has talked a lot on their podcast, We Can Do Hard Things, about becoming a parent, because she became a parent later in life to children who were already like pretty grown up. You know, they were teenagers, preteens, you know, they were older. She felt like she had missed a lot and like she was maybe a little out of place and like needed to make them like her, and felt like she needed to give them stuff to like get a leg up or whatever. How she overcame that. And it's really, if you want to listen to something like that, I would highly suggest you go listen to Abby talk about it, because it's really beautiful listening to her talk about this. I mean, it's definitely clear and obvious that she really, really loves all 3 of those kids and is very in tune with their interests and their goals and what they want and need. And yeah, is a big, big advocate for all 3 of them. So very cool parent. We have Jane Lynch, who is just an iconic lesbian and just popped up in the L Word, which took me out. I was not expecting that. She's a stepmom. In 2009, oh, by the way, my source from here on out for these people is BuzzFeed. It's not by any means a scholarly journal. However, it's what we're working with when it comes to lesbianism and motherhood, because there's not a lot of sources out there, I'm finding. So anyway, thanks BuzzFeed for putting this out. So Jane Lynch got married in 2009 to Laura Embry, and Laura had a daughter, two daughters actually, Hayden and Chase, and so now Jane is a stepmom. And so she was talking about how she never really understood children that much, and she's very empathetic, and so she's maternal in that way, but that like she just did not get children. But because she had that, kind of way of being before, that motherhood completely changed her, and that now that she had this 9-year-old living with her, who she was finding out was super funny and witty and cared a lot, and was smart, that she had a big change in perspective, and she felt like this kid was taking care of her in a way. So that's really cool. That's another perspective on family that, you can have your own kids, you can adopt kids, those are your own kids. You can have stepkids, all of it. You build your own family. It's just so cool. There's also the concept of community family, where maybe you never have your own kids, but you're the community mother and you take care of people, or the community aunt, or you are the fun aunt or whatever. Maybe you don't want kids at all. That's fine. Don't have kids, but this is just a day to celebrate our lesbian moms, okay? Wanda Sykes, who I promised you I'd bring up again. She has twins, actually. Those are with her wife, and they are 16 now at this point, but she was talking about how her wife is French, so her kids are bilingual, actually, and they talk in French and English. We have actress Rosie O'Donnell and her partner Michelle, and her adopted 3 children, and they at this point were becoming parents to a newborn. This was published a few years ago, so they, I guess, now have 4 children. Congratulations. But she became a mother at age 50, so that is pretty late to become a mother, which is another thing that if you are adopting, you have that opportunity, or if you're using a surrogate, you have that opportunity to be a mother later in life, and that's a pretty unique experience, I believe. But she says it feels like a huge gift. She is not as panicked. She sees the joy it gives the person that she loves the most in the world, her partner, her spouse. She sees the joy it brings to her and to her other children, and that it's been a really amazing experience for her. So good for you, Rosie. To round this out, I would like to talk about the ways and the costs of which it takes lesbians to become mothers, because it's not really as simple as it is for the majority of people. There's, obviously, we've talked about adoption. That's not cheap. That's pretty expensive, actually. And it's a long process. There's also being a foster parent is a really unique and very special kind of parenting that you have to really have a very strong emotional base. I don't know that I personally have the emotional foundation to be able to let go when it's time for foster kids to move on and be able to return to their families. I think that would be really, really difficult for me, in the same way that being a surrogate would be very difficult for me. And so I really admire parents who do that, and I think it's so, so necessary that there are good foster parents out there, because it's obviously needed, and a lot of people go through the foster system and don't receive the support and love that they deserve. So if you are a queer or lesbian foster parent, I give you a very big round of applause, and I say thank you. There's also, obviously, surrogacy, which is super, super expensive. There's sperm donation. That is actually one of the cheaper ways. And if you do it, if you just do it yourself, you privately find your own person who's just willing to give you sperm under the table and you do it, then hey man, that's free, I guess. Emotionally free later on, no strings attached. I don't know about that, but free from the institutions, sure. But to just go and actually get a sperm donation, it's much, much cheaper to do that than it is to do adoption or surrogacy or our next option, IVF, which is very expensive. It ranges in cost from each round, by the way, from around like $10,000-$12,000 on the low end to around $30,000 to $35,000 on the high end. So if you're having multiple children, then that's even more expensive. Or if you keep having failed attempts at IVF and implantation, then that can be a really, really difficult and emotional thing and expensive, extremely financially straining. So there's a lot of big challenges that lesbian mothers go through if they don't have children from previous relationships with men, or if, they don't have like a different way of family, I guess. Take a big deep breath together, because that's kind of daunting and scary to think about. And I hope that as research keeps going and medical things get more accessible, that prices start to become more accessible as well. I hope, to all my mothers out there listening, that you have a really beautiful Mother's Day, that you are treated by your kids, by your partners, by all of the loved ones in your lives, that they show up for you, that they tell you how much you mean to them and everything that you do for them, because I know that it is not always easy, but just know I'm seeing you now, and you rock, you're awesome, and we love you. Thanks for joining the Lesbian Book Club podcast today. Bye.